Hello. It's another episode of Seeing Peru, a remote viewing travelogue. Today is Sunday, November, is it the 16th? I guess it's November 16th. And I'm going to be reviewing the events of yesterday, which was flying over the Nazca lines. And it's called the Pulpus lines. So we drove about 4 hours south of where we were in Paracas, and we take a little tiny plane, a 6-seater plane, and fly over the Nazca lines. I'll be going over some of that during my mapping time. Just an overview, the Nazca lines are giant characters, stylized animals and birds and humans and some maybe non-humans. There's one that looks a lot like an astronaut. Some with the 3 fingers that look like the Nazca mummies that we saw yesterday. And they're made at an enormous scale. Some of the geometrics are up to 1,200 feet at the longest. And the more typical characters, the larger ones, are about 650 feet across. And they can really only be appreciated from the air, which has lent, suspicion that there was some extraterrestrial or some kind of elevated, aerial species, and that's who they were communicating with. So that's why it belongs on kind of an esoteric tour, because there's thoughts about, why can these only be seen from the sky? The lines are made by digging about 4 to 6 inches into the earth, and the richer little bit of topsoil is taken off so that the wider lines are revealed underneath. As you can see, a lot of the pictures that I'm going to show you, the contrast isn't great, so I upped the contrast, and I'm also going to insert some more developed photos from the museum so that you can see it a little bit better. It was a rough trip. It was a rough initiation. The plane was not easy. Many of us went for the extra tour of doing a half-hour extra, so it was an hour total, and almost instantly regretted it because it's the plane maneuvers very tight hairpin turns, and there's a lot of bouncing because of the desert, and it was really challenging for many of us. So I'll share that with you. Okay, so here we go into the map, and I'll show you what I got. Okay, so it's late at night on the 16th. We have a really early flight tomorrow, so I'm going to go over this quickly. This is from the Nazca line day, and I'm not going to go too much into this because it's some personal dynamics, but kind of normal. What can I say? Normal personality dynamics that go on when there's a group of people. I'm going to go down here. I think that will explain it best. Is that when we flew over the Nazca lines, many of us had a real problem with motion sickness. I was mentioning the plane took really tight turns to the right in order to look at the lines, and then for the other person on the other side of the plane to see them, we had to bank hard left. And it was really challenging, and many people got sick. But I struggled a lot, but hung on. So look at this person. We have a little simple drawing of someone that kind of represented all of us with a very green face, getting very sick. And so at the bottom here, so sickly. The green was about being sickly, about their health, about being possibly motion sick. So that was right on. So up here, we have kind of reactions to that event because there were so many of us that went through it. This kind of creature here on the left, the turquoise creature, kind of turned away from the action. So there were definitely kind of a group of people that weren't paying attention to those of us who were ill. They either hadn't experienced it or couldn't relate to it, or just didn't want to kind of see it. So that was kind of my representation of those in the group that turned away from what was going on, not lending help, kind of a defensive posture. There was a small being, there's under pink 2, on their way up to blue, not happy, sees where he's going. So many of us got in the plane and said almost immediately, said, uh-oh, I made a mistake, maybe doing this. A lot of people said that, so I think that was that feeling. The end, there were others who were kind of like the eagle, the stoic, get tough, setting boundaries, just kind of get over it sort of feeling. And then there in the middle was a more relational, wanting to engage. And I'm going to go over that down here. And this is, again, in response to a whole group of us being quite ill for up to an hour after the flight. So it shows here soil and walking. And then here, I think this is the desert, the brown. It shows sideways, you follow the path. So it's about the paths in the desert. Rising up. See, there's a face embedded in the desert. So I believe that's a representation of the lines. It's a way of saying that there's an embedded character in the desert. But then as you go above, it's interesting because I described it as that the face is altered in the number 4 position as it goes above. So is that you see it differently? Is that us up in the airplane with our faces altered, looking very different? How would you interpret that? Over here, this violet space, which for me is usually a place of healing. You'll see that healing space, quick renewal, and inside of that, a small being in a big space with a quick process. And that's what it was like. Those of us who were affected by this sat outside of the airport kind of together. Someone went by, actually Ross went by, and I called it the recovery room. And we're sitting there giving each other the antidotes that the people sold to us, the cocoa leaf candies that helped us feel better. And so that's, I think, the healing space that we're talking about. The yellow was illumination, praying. Definitely those characters were a sacred ritual. So I think the praying and illumination makes sense for seeing those, especially it's up in the sky. The number 6, pink, small being, upside down, carried along, certainly was. The orange part, rough road. There was a rough road, driving road, getting there for sure. A journey, it was urgent, and it was a 4-hour drive down and a 4-hour drive back. So it was a really long day, and we didn't eat lunch until like 5 o'clock in the afternoon because they didn't want us to, get more sick with food in our tummies. So it was really challenging. It was worth seeing them, but it was super challenging. Then the purple was interesting. That's this that says number 3. I associated that to like a half teardrop or a breast, a profile of a breast. It was special, intense healing, a beacon rising up. So that really was the way it felt after the flight, with a group of mostly women sitting together and helping each other and giving each other, antidotes and checking on each other later in the night. And we didn't get back into the hotel until really late, and we didn't get any dinner because it was so late and there was so little lunch. So it was a challenging day, and it just felt like kind of women power, helping each other, that carried over to the next morning too. So that was really strong. Flag, temple, up in the air, that's very much a sacred site. So I think that's what I have to say about the map today, and I'm going to be inserting videos and pictures of flying over the lines so that you can see it right after this video. Hope you enjoy.